The hills of Virginia are alive with the sound of Toyotas. It's the Tanso Racing Group, round number 3 from Virginia International Raceway, iRacing's VIR. I'm Rick James alongside Repeat 1975 Pete. The formation lap is underway, and these high horsepower Toyotas are about to put on a show. This is going to be thrilling. Welcome to VIR, bud.
Absolutely. Welcome, Rick. Good to see you. Good to be back with my broadcasting brother from another mother. 34 of these Toyotas in the hills of Virginia, and I cannot wait to set these guys free. Brand new series for both of us. A lot of very fast guys out here. We're going to see a lot of these cars through the twists and turns, getting light, getting heavy. But, man, it's going to be one hell of a race. How are you, sir?
I'm brilliant. I'm fantastic. I'm so ready for this. That Porsche pace car just guiding these guys along for this first of two 20-minute sprints. That's what the format is going to look like tonight as you're looking at Arthur Turtle in the 75, Sean Weber behind him as the pace car gets ready to peel off. The green flag will wave, or I should say the lights will come on. Mark Brown at the front. A couple of guys getting just coming down pit road, possibly trying to gain some speed. But VIR hosting this manic sprint. Pete, have you ever seen Toyotas like these around a racetrack like this?
No, I haven't actually. I've never done anything with these Yodas before. Very excited about this track. I don't think I've ever actually done anything with VIR. I was talking to you just a little bit ago and mentioning to to you and the league owner or community club owner, whichever it is, VIR before, never any kind of track. I'd like to see the NASCAR trucks or something be done with this place. It's absolutely phenomenal. The twists, the turns, the elevation changes. We're in for one hell of a thrill right here, sir.
Patiently waiting for the pace car to take these GR86s around the racetrack. Sean Weber in that number 50 Simtech machine on that front row, waiting for the lights to go, waiting for the word. They put their feet down through the floorboards, Pete. The lights are on, and we are racing at VIR.
Absolutely, Arthur Turtle getting in a nice little 3/10 gap right off the bat, kind of a little bit of a hole shot, if you will, Rick. And everybody behind him going to be a little bit of side by side. Absolutely got to love a lot of the liveries as they're going through the first bout of twists and turns.
Once again, as the race facts told you, 3.27 miles around VIR. This is the first of two 20-minute sprints, and then the cars will be inverted. And only talking about the top 12 going to be inverted for that final 20-minute dash. Straight away, Arthur Turtle leading this field in that blue number 7.5. Dan Mold behind him. Sean Weber rounding out that top 3. You see a lot of these drivers maybe just called A or B. We're going to get that sorted. But what that is, these drivers, Pete, are separated into two separate classes by I rating. So drivers that have a higher I rating, that above 1,500, are in Class A. Drivers that have a I rating, as we've got some action, below 1,500 are going to be into Class B. That's Jordan Hadfield in the 7 Red Bull machine. It's got the Marlboro car of Adrian Hadfield around the outside. That double hairpin. There goes the 7 again, Pete.
Yeah, all kinds of action all the way around this place. And it's going to be interesting as these cars start to get spread out. Who's going to be able to make up some time? Who's going to fall back with a little bit of movers and shakers? You talk about Arthur Turtle right now. He's been able to hold on, be able to keep everybody at bay. And just as I say that, Sean Weber able to move back up into P number 2 as well. Harry Fox back there in 6th. So far, the only guys that are actually right where they initially started. The only other guys you're going to see beyond that are outside the top 17 that are basically holding position.
Rob Sutherland and Elliott James falling off the racetrack. Have a look here. Contact with the Marlboro machine. You see that white-blue Insignia car falling off the racetrack. That's Elliott James, scored as number 35, falling off the racetrack, and they're going to have a lot of work to do. Just over 17 and a half remaining in Sprint 1, Pete.
Yeah, and time's going to click by very, very fast. I mean, this is just lap number 2, and so far, it's... I got to tell you, I'm very, very excited about this. You see that marble car as they just passed, another that's kind of slidden off the track. And Rick, when was the last time you saw a really, really nice looking Red Bull livery?
AlphaTauri just released their livery for the season today. That's a great Red Bull livery. I think, aside from the Formula One cars, I don't know. Maybe do you remember the NASCAR Red Bull liveries when Red Bull first came to Toyota? I loved those. They were amazing. The leaders off the track, Sean Weber trying to get around Arthur Turtle. There goes that, I don't know, what would you call that? That Outrun livery, that Simtek car. Dan Wareham behind him, being scored as 7-3 in the 3rd position. Almost Miami Vice, if you will, but those cyan, magenta, and black Toyotas trying to take the lead, and Pete, we're used to seeing this. They're bump drafting down the long straight.
Yeah, a little bit of tandem drafting there. Definitely some team cars in Sean Weber and Dan Wareham. Mark Brown just a little bit further back, but right now everybody on the heels of Arthur Thurtle. You're watching him in practice and watching him in qualifying. The man has been bad fast since he first turned his first lap. There we go. I knew I'd get it out at some point, but these team cars keeping right there with him, and I'm sure that the draft absolutely plays a little bit of a factor.
Contact, you hear it already. More smoke, more cars going off the racetrack. Harry Fox, the next driver to succumb to contact, being scored as the 1-8 in the Whisk livery. Now having to get his mojo back again. Just over 15 minutes remaining. And how about Dan Wareham going purple? 2:08 with a little bit of change. Fastest as the sun comes out and shines down on VIR.
Yo, Rick, normally when we're talking about race cars, you and I, it's either the NASCAR Xfinity Cup Series or Truck Series. We're talking about the wear of the tires. You got to wonder, as this race goes on, 30 laps on these little Yodas, what's it going to mean to these things in the long run? Not only this, but then when we go to the second heat and then the final race, I don't know if these guys have multiple sets of tires in the proverbial pits, or do they race the entire race on the set that they have?
Mark Brown seems to be racing with everything he's got. I believe the tire wear is going to be reset between the sprints, Pete, but points are going to be given out in these sprints and then that final race as well. Mark Brown in the 43 Monster Machine, drafting behind Dan Wareham down the long straight once again, while Sean Weber, Wareham's teammate, pushes the leader, Arthur Thurtle, down the straight. Here goes the overtake for first place, Pete. The 5-0 to the inside of the 7-5, headed into the tight bend.
Yeah, very, very tight, and it looks like Thurtle might let him go. Maybe try to outbrake him just a little bit, try to get back in gear, grab it, and down the hill. It looks like we are going to have a new leader, Sean Weber.
Let's ride along with Weber and watch him navigate these hard bumps along VIR.
Got a challenge back for the lead. Here comes Sean Thurtle to the inside, or the right side, when we're talking about road racing. Able to get on by, and Rick, it looks like throughout this course, there are several braking zones. Thurtle able to use that to his advantage, get right back by Sean Weber, and now Sean and Dan right back nose to tail, and it looks like Mark Brown's kind of fallen off just a little.
Dan Mold going fastest, 2:07.88. The driver from Stoke-on-Trent goes purple, Pete. He's making his way through the field.
Yeah, Dan Mold, he's got Ryan Dudley and Deck Crowther right behind. All Toyotas in this field. Again, this is the Toyota GR8, or if I'm not mistaken, I could be off on the lettering, but man, it's interesting to see, these cars, and of course the monster cars and all the others, as we got a little bit of beating and banging between Dan Mold and Mark Brown going down the straight. They're going to make it 3 wide.
11 minutes and then some, just waiting to be worn down. These drivers, the 998 Ryan Dudley getting the best of that exchange. Mold behind him, Mark Brown behind him. Heavy contact between Brown. Mold goes for a spin, and the fastest driver on the racetrack, all for naught. Mold now down to 8th position. Stu Gibbons behind him, and the American Gene Weber moves into the 7th spot in that 2-9.
Yeah, that contact between Mold and I'm not quite sure who was with him. Absolutely sent the other all the way through the grass and along the guardrails, way deep in that infield, that part of the track. So have to see how they're able to recover. But yeah, Eugene Weber right now sitting in P7, up 1 spot since this all kicked off. And hey, long way to go.
Looking at Fraser Garrity in the 6th position, just ahead of Gene Weber. Garrity in that blue 3-2, Gene Weber in that Toyota Racing livery 2-9. Behind him, Chris Barn, Alan McCain going at it. McCain in that brightly colored 2-1-2. Deck Crowther just ahead of him, and Harry Fox watching all of this unfold behind him, while Sean Weber and Dan Mold, 2 of the fastest drivers of this race, head into another group of slaloms side by side. Pete, these drivers that fell off the track know that they have speed, and it looks like they're desperate to make it back up.
Yeah, when you've got 33 other cars behind you and you have to keep pace or fall back, sometimes you push just a little too hard and you hit that off track, and we all know just how slick the grass around any track can be, whether it's getting onto a pit road or on a straight, and you kind of prepare for either the upcoming left or right. You move a little too far over, very easy to misjudge how much track you have, touch a little bit of that grass, and you got problems.
Fans watching at home, once again, if you see the drivers with the last name A or B, that denotes the class that they're in. The scoring pylon showing that as their surname, but we'll sort these names out for you as well as we can. Frank Corby in the 5-8, coming up on James Bostock in the 6-6, side by side once again down the long straight. Pete, these straights offer a lot of passing opportunity on VIR.
Yeah, they really do. And I tell you, ever since Dan Wareham's teammate fell back through the field, going back to about P number 8, look at the gap between 2nd and 3rd. It's now well over 5 seconds, as driver in that 2nd spot, Dan Wareham, he just went to Plaid, putting down a lap of 2:07.8. So far, the fastest lap, and oh, by the way, 5 laps in.
Time keeps ticking away in this first of 2 sprints. Arthur Thurtle leading Dan Wareham. Ryan Dudley in the bronze medal position on an island by himself, while the Northern Irish driver Mark Brown holds off Fraser Garrity, rounding out the top 5. But here comes Gene Weber racing for the United States behind the British and Northern Irish driver Alan McCain, another Northern Irish driver, rounding out the top 10. Further on back through the field, drivers don't find themselves alone. Jordan Hadfield in that Red Bull machine, now clawing his way back up after having that early spin. Pete, we saw him in practice. It was difficult to see how he was trying to get a hold of that race car, but Hadfield continues his good mission. He's trying to overtake Roger Morton.
Yeah, and you see Roger Morton in that number 92, trying to just find, maybe see where Hatfield and Sutherland, where where he may have to shift, what he's got to do to try to make up some time and get on by. Right now, again, sitting P19, if I'm not mistaken, it's just the top 15 that move on up to the main. I might be slightly off, but some of these guys got a lot of work to do.
With a lot of these guys having a lot of work, they're putting in green laps, meaning their fastest laps. Rob Sutherland, 2:12.46 his last time around. Frank Corby sets a personal best of 2:12.72, and even drivers in the top 5 like Fraser Garrity have finally found their slot. Garrity puts in a personal best of 2:08.57. These times get faster, and at the front, Dan Wareham just seems to be invading the space of Arthur Thurtle. He goes to the inside. Thurtle goes wide. Wareham now on the attack, side by side. Pete, he's got the advantage.
Absolutely, Arthur Thurtle had no recourse but to let him go. Wareham was all over the inside, caught the rumble strips just perfectly. Another braking zone, able to maximize it, and now he's got the lead yet again. So far, it really has been, it's been all about the 73 and 75. I was watching Mark Brown quite a bit in practice. He was about one of the only ones at the time to show he was able to really get on up there with Arthur Thurtle. But hey, you're Wareham, he's been wearing him down.
I missed your puns so much. So much. I'm glad you haven't lost that touch. There we go. Gene Weber hasn't lost that touch. 2:07.84 last time around, and the American goes quickest, but will it be consistent enough to stay in this top 6 in the battle for the top 5? Last time around the track, Ryan Dudley fell off. 3rd place in the 998. Mark Brown now a little bit closer. Elliott James cannot catch a break. James fell off the racetrack.
There's so much going on all the way around this place. You got to kind of wonder with the different braking zones where people are getting in, whether they're shifting more than others aren't, and it just really boggles the variations in speed that all of these drivers have. I mean, again, you look at 1st and 2nd, and then 6 seconds back to Dudley and Brown and Garrity. Just the top 2 have clearly sailed away.
Thurtle in the 75 remains in the silver medal position. JT Johnston's gone around. This is a B-class driver, the number 34. Might have lost control of his race car, falling off the track. That Tanso Racing Group machine catches the rumble strip and does a pirouette. He keeps it moving. Deck Crowther in the 11th position to the inside. Now the outside, I believe, well, inside, outside is relevant, isn't it now, Pete? Left-hand side would be the way to put it. Him and Carl Fleet making contact through a couple of corners. Carl Fleet in that number 10. Is that Sheffield Wednesday? Okay, Carl Fleet's a Sheffield Wednesday fan. Good for him. Fleet is now in the top 10. He's up 3 places from where he started.
Absolutely, yeah. Deck Crowther back 2 right now, as you said, sitting P11. Dan Mold, after some issues that we saw him have earlier, right now sitting P12, down 9. Down a be driver 13. So far, that number showing to be just a little unlucky. And again, that is Sean Weber. So right now, the top 10 doing pretty well. All in all, separated by about 21 seconds back from our leaders, and they continue to fight. But yeah, Rick, these rumble strips, the grass, and everything else really showing to and how fast or how consistent you have to try to be around this multi-turn over 3-mile track. It's showing to be a little bit more of a challenge for some than others.
Thurtle still in that 2nd place position as they slalom through the hills of VIR. Dudley sitting in that 3rd position. Shout out Toxic Munchkin in the YouTube chat. Thank you for coming through. And fans watching at home, let us know who you're cheering for. Put it into the chat. Weber's gone off again. Lucky number 13, Pete. Sean Weber goes off the racetrack. and he's going to fall well outside of the top 15 if he doesn't get that Toyota back onto the racing surface. Here comes James Bostock behind him. Gareth Newton also on the move in the 2-4 behind him. They will overtake Weber. He's down to 16th and poised to lose more. Frank Corby coming up behind him in the 5-8.
Yeah, Frank Corby right there, like you said, Roger Morton right behind him in the 92. You find little packs like this all over the place, and it's funny, Rick. You know, Frank Corby, he's up 2 spots. Roger Morton down 1. Rob Sutherland up 4. Jordan Hadfield, and then right in front of Corby, you got Sean Weber and Gareth Newton. So not seeing a whole lot of movers and shakers right around there. All the guys that kind of qualified on time are generally finding who they qualified near still out there on track. It's interesting to see how these packs work. Up at the front, still leading, although Arthur Thurtle has tried to either pull to the left or to the right a few times to try to take that lead back.
Chris Cutler just fell off the racetrack in that white Toyota, coming in way too hot, and it cost him dearly. Now back to live pictures. Arthur Thurtle in that 7-5, still in the second position. There is the battle box showing the difference between them all. Dan Wareham continues to lead. Stu Gibbons and Harry Fox just went green, Pete, 209 and 207 respectively.
Yeah, these guys absolutely still trying to dig after it. Might be a little bit of draft, might not. I mean, only one guy can take that spot. But yeah, 207.87 for Harry Fox. And Stuart Gibbons, 209.24. Those two working pretty well together, taking a spot when they can. As one more way off track.
Adrian Hadfield's gone off again. Let's have a look at Hadfield. A couple of drivers starting to make mistakes now, Pete, and this is recognized everywhere. Down to the 22nd position. Hadfield in the Marlboro machine, not having a good time. The resources start to wear. The grip is less because of, obviously, drivers just struggling to maintain that prime level of grip when they started, 9 laps ago. Focus at this stage of the race is going to be what's most required. Arthur Thurtle now leading Dan Wareham by 3 seconds. Ryan Dudley in the 998, right up Wareham's trumpet through the slaloms. And let's have a look and see what happened to Dan Wareham. There he is, right ahead of Thurtle.
Yeah, I was going to say, all of a sudden it just seemed like Dan Wareham dropped back quite a bit, and Thurtle just started to flat pull away. So off track, yeah, ooh, that was interesting. Just kind of like locked it all up.
Lost focus. Thurtle now running away with this one, 2.7 seconds. Dan Wareham riding in now the 3rd position after Ryan Dudley gets around him, Pete, and it looks like Wareham is starting to lose a lot of that prime grip that you expect. Or, and just maybe, Pete, knowing that the top 12 is inverted for that final race, perhaps Wareham is just playing the numbers game. There's a lot of strategy here, Pete, and we'll see who's got the juice towards the end of the race.
Well, I mean, if you're going to play possum, you're going to go all the way to the back. You're not going to run in P2 or P3 because you know that's just going to be P12 or P11. This all restart. Same thing with Arthur Thurtle. I mean, it's going to be an absolute blast to watch that rocket ship come on back up through the field. Dan Wareham has been able to get on by Ryan Dudley and get a little bit of a gap, and here comes Fraser Garrity to do the same thing.
Fans at home, if you've just tuned in, I'm Rick James. We've got Repeat by my side. You're watching Tanso Racing Group round number 3. As time expires on the clock, we're talking about the first sprint where time has expired. Arthur Thurtle's going to win that sprint handily. Dan Wareham finishes in that 2nd position. Ryan Dudley is going to be in 3rd. Fraser Garrity in 4th. And let's have another look. Dan Wareham fighting for his natural-born life in the 2nd position. This deserves just another look, Pete. Wareham falling off the racetrack, but having the wherewithal to give the fight back to Ryan Dudley. Have a look.
Yeah, that was absolutely awesome. Way off in the grass, and we were just talking about how slick it can be when you get off track. Having the presence and the state of mind, and having the track awareness to know where he's at, where his competition is, able to come on back up, no issues, and they stayed going.
This is all on the last lap as time is expiring for these drivers. Wareham just using the toe or the draft, if you will. A little bit of contact, nothing wrong with that. Good old touring car racing. And then that all-black 998 of Ryan Dudley stays with Wareham through the bends and all the way to the finish, Pete. Have a look. Let's ride on board with Fraser Garrity as this all unfolds.
Yeah, Fraser Garrity, P4 talking about that 32. Yeah, one masterful job. Left side, using that slipstream, as some may say.
And those are the standings right on the left-hand side of your screen. And that's the wrong button, as it were. So waiting for finishing up here while the final drivers cross the line. Thurtle in first, Wareham in second. And I believe we're going to have a warm-up here of just about 5 minutes. Let's see if we can bring up the clock. Yep, we're going to have a 5-minute warm-up here, Pete. So fans at home, you're going to have time to stretch your legs. We're going to see if we can get these graphics fixed momentarily. And we're going to keep it moving. You're watching Tanso Racing Group from iRacing's VIR.
Rick James with pretty much able to go on up there and dominate. Yeah, he had a couple of challengers with a few different drivers, but for the most part, it seemed like when he wanted to pull on up, he could. How much do you think he was just back there, kind of relaxing maybe a little bit, just staying behind others, maybe conserving what he's got? But most part, I didn't see him really make too many mistakes going off track. He was able to hold his attention to the track, hold his poise, and he did one hell of a job all the way through.
A brilliant job as well. In this warm-up, we're going to see a lot of drivers try to put in some fast laps, just shake down the race car a bit. We're going to really see just what they're made of. Digital Armchair Motorsports saying he couldn't make it home in time. Toxic Munchkin saying that he should have been racing here as well. But we're going to see really just, I think, a lot of patience in this second sprint as well. And as the warm-up goes on, we might see a couple drivers try some, more exciting moves. But we're probably going to see more of the same in the second sprint. And then don't forget, they're going to invert the first 12 finishers and then run that final 20-minute sprint. These are the points as they stand headed into this third round. You see Arthur Thurtle, who came away with that win. He's leading the points headed into this third round. Dan Wareham sitting behind him in that second position. And in the bronze medal position, you've got Dan Mold. These are all drivers that we saw have an excellent first run in the sprint. But put yourself in the driver's seat, Pete. If you had an excellent first run, are you going to hang back in this second sprint and just see what develops up front? Or are you going to try and learn more about how your competition races at the front?
I got to say, you're probably going to learn a little bit more. But at the same point, Rick, you can't allow the field to get too spread out, because that's going to lead to you pushing that car maybe a little bit more than you had to. You take Thurtle, for example. He was up front, had all kinds of clean air on that thing, had a couple people come up his backside to try to make some passes, and occasionally they did. But when he needed to get on by, he was able to do so either through the different braking zones, through the draft, or whatever, maybe just different gearing that he was using. It'd be great to actually be able to chat with him and see what he was doing. But I imagine once they invert the field, it is going to be absolutely amazing to see him come on up and get through the field. And like they say, whether it's in any kind of motorsport that we broadcast, Rick, the cream always rises to the top. Question is, or the
Pete, did we lose you?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Just cut off at the end. Sounded like we lost you. No worries. Rob Stoughton, first driver to put time in this warm-up session. Again, denoted just by the letter B, meaning he's a B-class driver. We're going to try and get that fixed as we move along, but Stoughton, the first driver to put time in this warm-up, this 5-minute warm-up session. You see it's just about to end here. 50 seconds, and it looks like drivers are just trying to get this race moving. That's how far they get. Chris Cutler also putting time in, 2:34.58. Nowhere near what you'd expect. Pete, you think these drivers are just going out there for the fun of it, or just trying something?
I think it's going to be seeing what the track is like, and as you get a little bit more comfortable in the way the track feels, you kind of push that accelerator just a little bit harder, get into those braking zones a little bit later, and start to attack the track just a little bit stronger. They've only got about 15 seconds to go before they grid up, so yeah, we'll have to see what they've got as the second round will get set to go.
Fans at home, we're going to take a short break while these drivers finish their warm-up and grid for the second sprint. Before we invert that field, I'm Rick James. Repeat by my side. You're watching round 3 of the Tanso Racing Group from Virginia International. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Fans at home, we're about to get going once again. The tribal branding point standings showing Arthur Thurtle. He'll be starting this second sprint in the 10th position. Dan Wareham, who's second in the points, will be starting this sprint in the 11th position. Alan McCain and Chris Barnes on the front row. And fans at home, don't forget to visit Tribal Branding's Facebook page. Tribal Branding, your one-stop shop for branding, clothing design, and their own clothing range. Check them out on Facebook or go to their shop, tribalbranding.shop. Check them out. And then the race facts brought to you by MK Designs Track Outlines. Pete, you ever seen those track outlines that you can get of like your favorite racetracks?
Absolutely. See, I've seen a lot of people that we know that when they were going through the whole 704 Pro League and all that, any track that they won at, they got those tracks to shipped to them, and they were able to put it up on their wall or whatever. Yeah, it's actually really, really cool. Love them.
MK Designs takes care of those. They do that.
Nice.
If you go to their Facebook page, MK Designs on Facebook, you'll actually see where they make not just the track cutouts, but actual, gifts like engravings, your favorite football team, whatever. They put it just on like engravings for like your wife, whatever. They take care of that stuff, and they can engrave that on glassware, on like your thermoses. MK Designs UK on Facebook. Check them out. And then once again, Tribal Branding. Check them out on Facebook as well, or their website, tribalbranding.shop. Pete, the second, well, not stage, what would you call it? The second sprint, the second 20-minute sprint is about to get going once again. You see the lights on the top of the screen. Alan McCain lined up next to Chris Barnes, patiently waiting for the pace car to remove itself from the racing surface, and we can get this second sprint underway. Do you think we're going to see anything different, or is it going to be more of the same?
I think it's going to be really, really interesting, to say the least, because we got some very fast cars just outside the top 10. Again, talking about and a few others. So Alan McCain leading this one. Chris Barnes, Mark Brown, Stuart Gibbons, and Cara Fleet going to be your top 5. Getting ready to fire this off as soon as that Porsche safety car, as you said, pulls off track, lets these guys rip and roar through every single twist, turn, and elevation change. It's been a whole lot of fun for the first 15. Let's get ready for the second.
Through the Hog Pen Complex, one final time down the front straight. McCain puts his foot down. Barnes behind him. We're racing again from VIR.
Green flag, green flag.
McCain at the front, Chris Barnes behind him, trying not to make any contact with Mark Brown in that third position, Pete. They funnel down into Horseshoe, now headed towards NASCAR Bend and Left Hook.
Yeah, top 5, top 6 right now, all single file, and that's probably the best way to be until you have a positive spot at an overtake. First and second making a little bit of contact, sending McCain off track, and now I believe that's
it's
going
Barnes.
to
Chris Barnes.
Way off track.
Barnes falls off in that green and yellow machine. Already heavy trouble for him in this second sprint. The 245 well off the racetrack. Barnes now enters this first slalom, or what they would call snake, headed towards this long stretch, what you might call turns 7, 8, and 9 towards South Bend and Oak Tree. Barnes all the way down to the 29th position. Alan McCain still your race leader with single file line consisting of Gibbons, Dudley, and Fox.
Yeah, Gibbons, Dudley, and Fox right now. That's going through the top 4. Crowther right now. Fraser Garrity. Arthur Thurtle started P12 after winning the last stage, or last heat, whichever you want to call it, already up to P number 7. So immediately up 5 spots, bringing Dan Wareham, his main competition from the first heat, right along with him. Cara Fleet and James Bostock going to round out the top 10.
Dudley in the 998, just ahead of that chrome machine driven by Stuart Gibbons, sitting in that second position. Gibbons, will he give him a break? Will he be patient? Drivers snake down through Hog Pen, the front straight, and the Horseshoe awaits ahead of him. Harry Fox coming into pit road. Pete, let's have a look. What in the world happened here?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't see any kind of issues. Not quite sure if there's a penalty or what caused him to slow up and roll up to come on down pit road. That's going to cause a lot of position loss. And now won't be. He should not get lapped with the distance around this place, a little over 3 miles. He should be able to come on back out. But yeah, it's going to prove pretty detrimental to his race.
Elliott James falling off the racetrack in that 35, giving up a couple of positions. He finds himself in the 16th position. Alan McCain continues to lead this race. 17 minutes remain on the clock. Fans, if you've just tuned in, the A and B on the left-hand side denotes driver class. We're going to try and highlight as many driver details as possible so you know where your favorite driver races. Pete, Jordan Hatfield in that Red Bull machine. He fell off a couple times. And there he goes again. Contact from Robert Stoughton in the 28, getting right into the double 7 of Hadfield. And once again, 2 races in a row, Pete, Hadfield finds himself well off the racetrack.
Yeah, Hadfield, great job by him to somewhat stay in the throttle, grab a gear, and get back up and get going. He's going to find himself all the way back in P19 as it sits. But as these guys come on by, and we got another guy that just went around, I believe that was Elliott James, one more time.
Chris Barnes falling off the racetrack, Pete. Have a look with Barnes. He's now into the 26th position. There's Hadfield in the double 7. And there's Barnes in the green and yellow Triple P racing machine. Chris Hadfield runs away from him now. And let's have a look one more time at Hadfield. I'm sorry, this is Jordan Hadfield in the double 7. One more look at Gareth Newton's overtake on Hadfield.
Wow.
You might call that a racing incident. I'm not sure. Deck Cruther goes purple.
I tell you, during the initial practices, as the 77's off track again, during the initial practices, I saw some people passing through those zones, and it really looked like, to use an old word for us in the different disciplines, but some coopetition, cooperative competition, and it just didn't seem like through those S's that that it didn't play out all that well.
American Gene Weber goes off the racetrack on the front straight right in front of competition. He's going to put it back onto the racing surface, but a scary moment for Weber. The American gets it moving again. 209.16. Cruther, purple. Alan McCain just ahead of him in the second position. Ryan Dudley now your race leader, Pete.
Yeah, how about 9 spots already? Alan McCain back to P number 2, so only down 1, holding on for everything that he can. Fraser Garrity, Dan Wareham now past Arthur Thurl, 4-year top 6. So moving right along.
Colombian driver Leonardo Elijah falls off the racetrack in that 433. Looks like he just upset the balance. No, he made contact, possibly with Andrew West. No, this was a different incident. Let's have a look at Andrew West falling off the racetrack as well. Pete, this second heat not proving to be prudent for a couple of drivers in the back. They're going to need this final race to really prove something to themselves. And that just happened by himself. No contact. It looks like West just put in too much input into the car, and he took it for an aggressive spin. 209.16. Deck Cruther is in the pits. Pete? No, he's not. Okay, I have no idea what I'm talking about. That was somebody else. That was the green and yellow car there. Couldn't tell you. One of those 2 Triple P racing machines. Alan McCain leading this race in the 212. 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, 13. Deck Crowther right there with him. But Rick, look at this pack. And we can actually literally say that for P number 1. McCain trying to hold everybody back, but Dudley's there. So is Crowther, Wareham, Garrity, Thurl, and Gibbons, all inside this top 7. Then you got a little bit of a break back to Carl Fleet and James Bostock. But look at this hornet's nest behind our leader.
And there they go again. One car going around. Is that it's not Stuart
32.
Gibbons who makes it through?
It's going to be Fraser Garrity off track, and everybody else able to single file it coming through. Again, these S's, as it looks like, yeah, for the most part, they're going to be all right.
Sean Weber went purple that last time around. 2 minutes, 8 seconds, and some change. Fastest driver of the race in the 14th position. Pete, again, keep in mind those top 12 going to be inverted for the final race. We'll see just where these leaders end up. Alan McCain leading, Deck Cruther behind him, who recently had the fastest lap, and Dan Wareham behind him at this double apex called Oak Tree. They head down the long straight towards Madison Avenue. The kink forms the gap between itself. Back straight, roller coaster, hog pen, and that completes the lap at Virginia International.
I gotta tell you, very, very creative all the way through. Absolutely loving this track. I mentioned that very, very early in practice, and again when the broadcast first started. Still waiting on some moves from Thurl and Wareham. 8 spots right now, sitting in P number 3. Thurtle, he's back 2 spots, but still up 7 on the race. Rick, what would you want to do if you knew again that the field was going to be inverted? Would you want to be somewhere mid-pack, mid-top 12, like where Thurtle is, or would you want to continue to push to get on up there just for the challenge?
With the rate that some of these drivers are crashing, Pete, you could hang around 12th, 13th, 20th, and there's just no telling where you're going to end up. Rob Stoughton in that green and yellow machine, now getting to the left-hand side of James Bostic, and Bostic will go for a spin. That's the second time that Stoughton has made contact with a driver. American Gene Weber also getting himself in trouble once again. And it's not been a good second sprint for him. It looks like Weber might just jump immediately to the pits. We'll keep an eye on him. Sean Weber in that 12th position. Mark Brown just behind him in 13th. And as always, Pete, Alan McCain continues to lead. Deck Cruther and Dan Wareham now going to square up.
Yeah, side by side coming through, and again, you got to really be aware of where your competition is. A little bit of side shot right there. That's going to put that 73 back to P3. No more side by side coming through there. They did it as long as they could. I think that 73 might be a little upset. He wants that spot back. Going to try to pull up the right-hand side. Coming through the corner, round side by side, door to door, wheel to wheel. A little bit more contact to the left front.
Robinson is racing as they head towards Madison Avenue. Deck Cruther and Dan Wareham not afraid to lean on each other when they're not strong and be each other's friend and help them hopefully carry on in one single piece. Arthur Thurtle sits ahead of Ryan Dudley down the straight towards Madison Avenue as well. Arishikala, a.k.a. Aiden Norman, the defending Thursday Night Thunder champion, saying, passing in the S's is a bad idea. And there goes Deck Cruther. Dan Wareham also follows him off the racetrack. They seem to be making up their own race course, while Ryan Dudley will overtake for the 3rd position. And look who's in P2. Just like that, Pete, Arthur Thurtle, the Stage 1 or Sprint 1 winner, now in the podium.
Yeah, and he's just got a good 3 seconds up to Alan McCain. So Alan kind of setting sail with just about 9 minutes left to go in this sprint or in this heat, Rick. I don't know if he can catch him, but I tell you what, his progress so far, again, up 10 spots to make it up to P2. Little ways to go as there continues to be a few more in the back that just pushing maybe a little too hard, trying to make up too much ground. Smooth, calm, and consistent, the name of the game when you're road racing, especially in these Yodas. They can get very light through several parts of this track.
But can they do it on a cold Wednesday night in Stoke? Dan Mold just went purple, 2 minutes, 8 seconds, and then some. Fastest in that green and gray SRL machine. Just behind him, Dave Smith from the same racing clan sits just ahead of Sean Weber. The driver from Durham rounds out the top 10, and it looks like 6 drivers went green that last time around, Pete. Drivers are starting to find their confidence. Heat is in the tires, but as we've just seen from some of the lead cars, if they don't focus, if they give it too much input, they're going to bin it, and that is their race.
Yo, Rick, a long time ago we were talking about C for confidence, P for patience. Which of these do these guys need a little bit more of in order to keep these things on the surface? Keep the front ends pointed in the right direction.
F in the chat for focus.
There you go.
Alan McCain has been focusing this entire race. Thurtle behind him by 2 3/4 seconds, but if we look at the history over the last 5 laps, Thurtle in that 2nd position, the A-class driver, 0.2 of a second quicker that last time around. Ryan Dudley behind him, not consistently quicker than Arthur Thurtle, but again, Thurtle putting in the most consistent performance thus far, already making his way up to that 2nd position. Last time around, Thurtle, 2 minutes, 9 seconds, 33. Waiting for Dan Mold to see what he can do this time around. He went purple last time with 2 minutes, 8 seconds. Mold will cross the line and the clock reads.
There you go, 6:40 left to go in this. And yeah, Dan as old Rusty Wallace would say. But the gap between Alan McCain and Arthur Thurtle continuing to shrink. Now 3.4. So I think something must have happened with Thurtle, because McCain extended that just a little bit. He was down to like 2.4. You can actually see him through the windshield just a little bit closer. But moving it back down 3.3, and Ryan Dudley all over the back end of Thurtle.
6 minutes left to play in this second heat. If you've just tuned in, you're watching round 3 of the Tanso Racing Group from iRacing's VIR. I'm Rick James. Next to me, repeat 1975. You're looking at the battle for the second position, Arthur Thurtle, Ryan Dudley. But that's not the only close racing, Pete. How about Mark Brown and David Smith almost making contact?
Yeah, a little bit further up, and one does go for a ride through the... So one more time, right in front of these guys. Couple of team drivers between the two. And I got to tell you, one thing I have seen a lot of, Rick, is each and every one of these guys has gone off. Well, for the most part, anyway. I won't say each and every one, but they've been able to, keep the cars straight for the most part, or in a sense, steer them back up towards the track without really looping these things around. Not quite sure if it's just because of the weight of the tire or the tires themselves or whatnot, but you don't really see them, just losing complete control and going for a long ride.
Adrian Hadfield went for a long ride. He fell off the race course there, just losing control once again. Hadfield finds himself in the 22nd position, while Arthur Thurtle finds himself within 3 minutes to Alan McCain. Ryan Dudley behind him. Looks like David Smith has fallen off the racetrack. Lots of complications here for Smith. Have a look. It's one of those SRL cars, Pete. David Smith with an incident. Have another look.
Yeah, way off, and he's had to kind of wait for traffic to get by before it can merge back in. But he's going to lose a few more. I believe he's back to about P15 right now.
A little bit of encouragement, possibly. Look at Chris Cutler falling off the racetrack again. If only we could find out who's that. Was that Mark Brown behind him? That is Mark Brown. Have a look at the monster car. Brown goes off, well off the racetrack. He's down to the 15th position outside the inversion. And we have another driver that just went purple, Pete, Dan Wareham, in that Outrun, what do we say? Outrun Miami Vice Vaporwave, if you will. The Simtex 73 wrestling with Ryan Dudley and the 998 jumping over those curbs, and these two putting on a great show with 3.5 to play.
All kinds of slideways coming over those rumble strips, or over those turtles, if you will. And man, he was just drifting all the way through. Yeah, we were kind of keeping an eye on Mark Brown during practice. Well, I mentioned it before that he had a whole lot of speed, almost up the Thurtle. So he's going to have to use every bit of that if he can to try to recoup. But I think from 12th to 18th is going to be a little bit too much of a tall order with just 3 minutes to go.
Ryan Dudley to the inside of Dan Wareham, side by side, dropping into Hogg's Pen. Wareham in the 73 just gets the best of Dudley through that exchange. Dudley jumps the curbs, falls off the racetrack. He's trying to get it back in one solid piece, and he's going to be in the slop out of Hogg's Pen and down the front straight. Dudley gave it everything with 2.5 minutes to go, but it looks like he's going to have to settle possibly to invert. Race leader Alan McCain just went green. 2 minutes, 8 seconds, and 77 100ths. Fantastic position.
Talk about Wareham and all the moves and shaking and baking that he just had to do. He just went to Plaid, 2:07.97. The only driver so far to get down into 2:07s. You think he wasn't hustling that car to move on up and try to keep from maybe getting a chrome horn to his backside? Well, here he is right now sitting P number 3. So Wareham was a force to be reckoned with in the first heat, showing that he can do it again in the second.
Roger Stoughton sitting in that 12th position with Roger Morton right behind him. Both of these drivers have been involved in a little bit of contact. Stoughton more than Morton, but they continue to battle left and right, and if these two make contact, it could be David Smith that ends up in that precious transfer position, or the inversion position, if you will. The top 12 will be inverted for this final race. How about this driver here, Sheffield Wednesday supporter Carl Fleet? My man is up to the top 4.
Yeah, not a bad job whatsoever for Carl Fleet. I mean, he's up one spot from where he started, but again, you got to remember, the top 12 were inverted, so that means that he would have started way back in like 11th, I'm sorry, he would have finished in 11th or 12th. Here he is inside the top 4, showing that he's got the speed to contend for a top 5, but all heat long, it has been Alan McCain, as we're less than a minute to go.
Pete, Alan McCain and Arthur Thurtle last time around put 2 minutes 8 seconds on the clock. Dan Wareham put in 2 minutes 11 seconds. Carl Fleet behind him. It's impressive what the top 2 are doing with 30 seconds to go. Alan McCain has completed the penultimate lap. This will be the last lap for McCain. Thurtle in that second position is within 1.3 seconds.
Yeah, you see McCain really go wide there, and it allowed Thurtle to close up to where he's under 1 second. 9, 8, 7, 6, and Rick, this will be the final lap. Can he get there?
McCain just ahead of Thurtle. Will Thurtle go 2 in a row and be poised to put in the hat trick? McCain right ahead. This is what the race for first looks like.
All over the backside, trying to use a little bit of draft, down to 6/10, down to just about 5/10, trying to get himself to be pulled up. There it is, breaking this. These back and forth slaloms. Alan McCain not making any mistakes, hitting the lefts, hitting the rights, doing everything that he can. He knows he's got a fast bandit on his backside, over the hill, back up, going into the right-hander.
Through that double apex, otherwise, I forget what it's called. Oak Tree. There we go. Oak Tree leading into the Madison Avenue kink, then into the roller coaster section. Thurtle will have the advantage on the toe. McCain will be on the defense. Eric Shikala loving this one in the chat. Now side by side, Pete, headed into that kink. Who's going to come out clean on the other side?
Thurtle is going to go ahead and hit the braking zone, and you just saw, there it is, hard off into the tire barrier. McCain's going to drive away.
Arthur Thurtle losing out on that exchange. Alan McCain is going to run away with the sprint victory coming out of Hogs Bend. Dan Wareham into that second position, Thurtle down to third, and that's where Thurtle is going to end up finishing. That looks like American Gene Weber, who got lapped there, but that's the way the cookie's going to crumble, Pete. Let's see if we can get another look at that awesome exchange right at the very end. Again, Arthur Thurtle to the inside. He sends it in pretty deep, and it just upsets the balance of the race car. Alan McCain driving off the victor in that exchange. But Arthur Thurtle really trying to go for the win. He won the first of 2 sprints, if you will. I keep saying stages. They're not stages. They're sprints. Arthur Thurtle winning the first of 2 sprints. Exactly. This time he'll be coming home in third, and then they're going to top 12 drivers while we get the rest of the field squared away. Alan McCain, your Sprint 2 winner. Fans at home are going to take a short break here, about 60 seconds, and we're going to be back for that final stage of racing. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back to iRacing's Virginia International in just a moment. Pete, those two races there put a conclusion to our round 3 festivities from iRacing's Virginia International, as it were. Fun little race today, don't you say? Pete, can you hear me? All right, well, I think we've lost Pete there, but it was definitely a thrill. Always a privilege to bring you these special races. Don't forget, coming up Thursday, we've got TNT round number 6 from Suzuka Grand Prix Circuit. That's going to be Thursday, 8:40 p.m. Big thank you to everybody over at the Tanso Racing Group. Thank you to everyone over at MK Designs as well. Check them out at facebook.com/MKDesignsUK. And, of course, Tribal Branding for all your personalized gifts. Check them out at tribalbranding.shop for repeat 1975. Everybody over at Tanso Racing Group, I'm Rick James. And until that next race, everybody please stay safe. Do take care of each other. And